Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Next Big Thing in Sports podcast. Once again, I am Matt McCoy and I will be your host for this episode where we're going to dive into the 2019 NFL Draft Class one more time. This will be the final chapter of our long form conversations for the NFL Draft from 2019. Following this podcast, we're going to turn our attention to fantasy football, looking at 2020 draft, just the NFL in general. So, we're going to keep the podcast going, no question about it. But this will be the last one where we are solely focusing on the 2019 NFL draft. It's time to turn the page. So, in our previous podcast, we broke down each and every class from every single team, gave you the rankings on part one from number 32 to 17. And in our second episode, part number two, we broke them down 16 all the way up to number one. So if you have not checked out those podcasts, please feel free to stop now and revert back to those. I thought they were pretty good episodes, about an hour long each, but it gives you all the material and talks about each and every team in the NFL. And we at least hit on every prospect, at least mentioning their name at the very minimum, but we try to dive in a little bit. So this podcast, we are going to go through our top 10 and our bottom 10. And what I mean by that is my favorite 10 selections in the entire draft, regardless of position, regardless of draft round, selection team. Just my favorite 10 picks in the draft and my least favorite 10 picks in the draft. Don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but there was some picks that left me scratching my head. And on the plus side, there are some picks I think that have a positive effect on a number of franchises. Before we dive in, I want to reiterate who we are and what we do. We are the Next Big Thing in Sports podcast. You can always find us anywhere that has a podcast platform at your Apple iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher. And when you find us on said platform, if you would, take a few seconds out of your time and leave us a 5-star review, trying to get our street cred up there in the podcast world. It's a very competitive world out there, and we need to energize and re-energize as far as marketing is concerned. Also, check out our website. It's our accompanying site. That's the nextbigthinginsports.com. When you arrive there, you'll find, like I said, the final chapter, our reviews on 2019 NFL Draft. You'll find links to the podcast that you enjoy if you listen to this podcast here. We'll also begin to look forward. We're going to be looking at a lot of the fantasy football community. We'll have our big board up there, 1 to 100. We're going to break down the quarterback position, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, give you your fantasy football fix. And we're also going to dive into the real-life NFL, look a little bit forward about our predictions for 2019. And it's never too early to come back around to where it all started, the NFL Draft. Only we'll look forward, at the 2020 class. Some players to keep your eye on as we get closer to the college football season beginning this fall. So that's a little bit about us. So hopefully you enjoy what we're doing. Keep trying to bring you the as much material as we can, and in a short time, try to value your time and give you as much bang for your buck. So we're going to start with the bottom 10, if you will, the 10 selections that I was least a fan of. So before we dive into the top 10, I do have a couple honorable mentions. So 2 honorable mentions for the bottom 10. Dexter Lawrence went in the first round, 17th overall. Was not a big fan of selection. I thought he was more of an early round 2 selection. I just do not see the pass rushing ability that I saw in some of his contemporaries at the defensive end and defensive tackle position. Ball was a little bit rich for my blood. And Lonnie Johnson Jr., the Houston Texans took him in round 2, middle round 2. Again, I had a mid to late third round grade on Lonnie Johnson. I think a lot of his projection, people see the length, the size, the traits, but there's a lot to be worked with. He can be very raw, and taking him in round 2, you're basically saying you're going to start Lonnie Johnson Jr. from day one, and I think he's going to have a pretty rocky rookie season if that is the case. So we'll go 10-1. Number 10 on our bottom 10 is Sione Takitaki, the linebacker from BYU, drafted by the Cleveland Browns in round 3, I believe it was, 81 overall. We had a round 5 grade on him, so pretty high for our taste. I did not see the all well-rounded ability. I know it's a late third rounder, but still, these are the rounds where you're drafting starters. I see Takitaki more of a role player, so not a big fan of where he was drafted by the Browns. Number 9 on this list, Rashawn Gary, defensive end or defensive tackle, depending upon your perspective, for the Michigan Wolverines. He was drafted by the Green Bay Packers, 12th overall in the draft. So, it doesn't take the premium scout to see the traits. He is extremely athletic. I understand what there is to like there about Rashawn Gary. We had an early second-round grade on Gary. I moved him up and down our big board frequently. One of the more confusing prospects, and where I wound up was there was an excuse being made for Gary, basically saying that he was not used properly at Michigan. And originally, I took that at face value, and I thought that was a valid conversation point. But at the end of the day, he's being coached by Don Brown and Jim Harbaugh. You mean tell me these guys don't know what to do with a talent like Rashawn Gary? It's a little bit confusing for me. Still have mixed emotions about Gary. He could become a Pro Bowl type of player. It would not surprise me. For my money, I told a colleague of mine, he kind of reminds me of Calais Campbell when he came out of Miami, where I believe he went at the beginning of the round 2. And Calais Campbell's had a hell of a career, had a great career. You saw the talent, just the NFL wasn't quite sure about him. So Green Bay, I really like what they did in the offseason, really lit it up on defense. Rashawn Gary is just another piece of that puzzle. But I just question the value of pick number 12. I would have preferred them to go to, say, Brian Burns and Andre Dillard, somebody of that nature. Number 8 on this list, Trysten Hill, defensive tackle out of Central Florida. He was the first draft pick from the Dallas Cowboys. They did not have a first rounder after trading that pick to the Oakland Raiders for Amari Cooper. They drafted in the second round, 58th overall. Trysten Hill was the first selection. We had a late round 3, early round 4 grade on Trysten Hill. Thought it was a bit rich, a bit early. He was removed from the starting lineup at Central Florida. Now, like Gary, he is physically talented. There's no question about that. You can see the traits. You see the athletic ability. You watch him at the combine, and, there's a lot of potential there. But it's a lot of untapped potential. So just a big concern that he'll ever realize his potential and to draft him in the end of round 2, again, gives me a bit pause. So I would prefer for him to be late round 3, early round 4. So it was a bit rich for my blood, late in the second round. Number 7 on our list, Marquise Blair, the safety out of Utah. The Seattle Seahawks took him in the mid-second round, 47th pick overall. Again, not a bad player. It's not that I dislike Marquise Blair. I just had a similar value to Trysten Hill. I had him as a late 3rd, early 4th round pick. I would have liked him late in round 2, late in day 2, early in day 3. And the Seahawks take him mid-round 2. It's just a little early for me. There were better prospects there. I mean, for goodness sakes, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is still on the board, a guy I really like. One of my favorites in this class. Nasir Adderley was still on the board. So I just question the selection. I don't question the fit. See, Seattle does things differently. They have a different way of going about it. We've talked about that in previous podcasts. Seattle, they have this a unique way of looking at the draft. They have a certain type of player they like, and they stick to their board. So I can appreciate their persistence and their consistency about how they draft. It's just not the same way I look at things. So we're always going to disagree. Me and Seattle Seahawks we're never going to see eye to eye. So, like I say, the Marquise Blair pick, I like him. Don't love him. In round 2, I think it's a little bit high. Number 6 on our list, Titus Howard, offensive tackle out of Alabama State. That the Houston Texans took him in round 1, 23 overall. Again, like Marquise Blair, I don't hate Titus Howard. I really liked him. I was one of the highest ones on him in the scouting community. but I had a mid-second round grade on him. I would have selected him around pick 50 to 60, somewhere in that range. 23 overall. The guy is incredibly athletic, but he's incredibly raw at the same time. To take him at the 23rd best player in this draft is out of this world. I cannot support that kind of selection. At the end of the day, what happened was the Philadelphia Eagles jumped up in front of Washington, in front of the Houston Texans. They moved up to number 22 on the pick, and they took Andre Dillard. That's the guy that Houston wanted, and Houston stuck to their game plan of adding talent to their offensive line, and he took the next guy up, which is Tytus Howard. So I just think it's a huge reach. Again, could Tytus Howard become a above average offensive tackle in the NFL? Absolutely. But I think coming from Alabama State, it's going to take some time. It's going to need a lot of refinement in his game. And I'm afraid Houston Texans are going to throw him into the fire, which could endanger his overall prospects. Now to our top five, or our bottom five, if you will. Number 5 on our list is L.J. Collier, defense end out of TCU, also going to Seattle Seahawks with the 29th overall pick in the first round. Again, I had a early to mid round 3 grade on Collier. I liked him. I thought he was a bit of a tweener. I would have liked to have seen him maybe wind up in a 3-4 scheme, possibly as a DN in a 3-4 scheme, but that was not the case. And again, Seattle looks at him and they see a type of player like a Michael Bennett, and they had so much success with Michael Bennett earlier in his career. So, I mean, again, I see the fit, I see the appeal, but I just don't see the value. And to be fair, L.J. Collier was getting some round 1 buzz there towards the end. I just never fully bought in. I still valued him as a round 3 prospect. So for him to go in the latter portion of the first round was just not a pick I'm going to sign off on. Number 4 on this list, Drew Sample, tight end out of Washington. Stunning selection here by the Cincinnati Bengals. I believe he was the 16th tight end on my board. He came off with the 52nd overall selection in the second round. I don't get it. Listen, again, to be fair, the Washington Huskies did not use Drew Sample very well. You only saw glimpses of the skill set. Potentially he will be a better pro than a collegiate. But to be drafted at 52nd overall, I want to see something more consistent. I had it, round 5, round 6 grade on Drew Sample. He goes here in middle of round 2. Just far too rich for me. I just can't get behind the pick. For the Bengals, I think it was a huge reach. Number 3 on our list, Jahlani Tavai, linebacker out of Hawaii, goes to the Detroit Lions. And we spoke about it previously in our last podcast when we talked about the Lions. Just the Lions, the Titans, the Patriots, these guys come from the Bill Belichick tree. And, of course, Bill Belichick himself, they identify certain types of players, certain skill sets, and certain traits, and that's what they are drawn to. And Jahlani Tavai fits that mold. And from all accounts, the Patriots coveted Tavai in the second round, and the Lions took him before he got there. But regardless of what team selects him, I had a 5th-round grade on Jahlani Tavai. He goes in the early portion of round 2. Just never really saw it. Never saw the value there at that selection. I think it's a huge reach for a guy that, again, I had a day 3 grade on. Number 2 on our list. This might be the most controversial one on the list. Dwayne Haskins, quarterback out of Ohio State, going to the Washington Redskins. And this is purely based upon where we valued him, or where I valued him. I had a 4th-round grade on Dwayne Haskins. I did not see the skill set. I don't see any other promising traits, anything to get excited about. I think he could develop into a suitable NFL quarterback, serviceable, if you will, but I don't see any special skills. So to take him 15th overall when I have a 4th-round grade on him is just a huge reach for me. I know quarterbacks are evaluated differently. They always get pushed up. But I was not a fan of this draft class at the quarterback position at all. But, take him 15th overall. I can't support that selection. Hopefully, for Redskin fans, it works out. But he winds up number 2 on this list. At number one should come as no surprise. I think it was one of the more surprising selections in the entire draft. That's Daniel Jones, quarterback out of Duke. I ranked him even lower than Dwayne Haskins. I just don't see it. Throughout the process, I never wavered. Just not a fan of Daniel Jones. Seems like a nice guy. He's got good intangibles, good traits. Just never saw an NFL starting quarterback. Just never did. I know Todd McShay from ESPN feels a similar way. And then you have a guy like Mel Kiper really likes him. So, Daniel Jones is one of the more controversial picks because he has supporters and he also has detractors out there. So I'm just not a Daniel Jones guy. I had him a fourth round value. He goes number 6 overall in the draft. It was jaw dropping to me. I could not get over it. So Daniel Jones, number 1 on our bottom 10. So now we get to some more exciting things, happier times. We talk about the top 10 picks for my money in the entire draft. And I have a little bit longer list of honorable mentions here because, hey, it's good. It's good stuff. A lot of players got drafted, good values, good teams, good fits that I really liked. So here's a few of my honorable mentions. I'll run them down quickly. Jawaan Taylor. I like the value there. Now, listen, I know there were some injury concerns with the back and the knee, but still, you're getting him in the second round. Most people had him going top 10 to 15 in the draft. It's good value for the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think he's going to fit right in at right tackle. Dalton Risner. I had a first-round value on him. He sneaks into the early portion of round 2. The Broncos select him, and he can play anywhere on the offensive line, not left tackle. So I think he's going to be a good fit and could potentially be a Pro Bowl player. It's great value there for the Broncos. A.J. Brown goes in the second round, 51 overall to the Tennessee Titans. Again, I had a late first, early second round grade on him, so he slid a little bit. I just like the player. I think he could help with the NFL team right away. I think he's the most NFL-ready wide receiver in this draft, so I like that selection as well. Juan Thornhill goes to the end of round 2, 63rd overall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, I had a late first-round grade on Juan Thornhill. I think he's super athletic. I think he is a ball hawk, can cause turnovers in your secondary. So I like Juan Thornhill a great deal. Yannick Juiced going at the end of round 3, 102 overall to the New England Patriots. Again, I think this guy could be a starter right tackle. At worst, can be a swing tackle, adds depth to your offensive line. I had a mid-round 2 grade on him. He goes about 50 picks later than where I valued him, so great pick by the New England Patriots. Deontay Thompson is next on our list. Safety out of Alabama. Gets drafted with the first pick in round 5 by the Arizona Cardinals, 139 overall. Love that value. Had a mid to late second round grade on him. Again, great ability to cover. Can cover a lot of ground. I know some people are concerned about a slender lower body half with Deontay Thompson, but again, in the 5th round, I had a second round value on him. Excellent selection by the Cardinals. Amani Oruwariye out of Penn State. He goes to Detroit Lions with their 5th round pick, 147 overall. Again, I think this guy could wind up being a starter opposite Darius Slay. If you're getting guys who are starters in the 5th round, outstanding selections. And our last honorable mention is Mack Wilson in the 5th round by the Cleveland Browns, 155 overall. Just, again, I had a second round grade on him. I know I was higher than most. Some people soured on him throughout the process. I still like the traits. I think he's serviceable. I don't think he's, going to be a Pro Bowl potential type of linebacker, but I think he's going to be a solid starter. And again, in the 5th round, sign me up for that kind of pick. On to our top 10. We'll start at number 10, and I did a little hedging here. I did what a lot of people hate, and I put 2 guys in for 1 slot. It's, it's kind of cheating a little bit, but I put the edge rushers for the Carolina Panthers. So both Brian Burns, drafted in the 1st round of 16th overall selection, and Christian Miller, they drafted with the 4th round, 116, about 100 picks between the two of them. I really like both players. Brian Burns, we had a top 5 grade on. He goes in the middle of 1st round. Christian Miller, we had a mid to late round 2 grade on Christian Miller. Like the traits, I understand the injury is concerning, but again, going in round 4, great value for Carolina, a team looking for edge rush help. I think they nailed it with Brian Burns in the 1st and Christian Miller in the 4th. Number 9 on our list, offensive tackle Andre Dillard out of Washington State, winding up with the Philadelphia Eagles. We had a early, I think he's 13th on our big board, so an early round 1 grade on him. He slips to pick number 22. The Eagles prioritize offensive line and trade ahead of the Houston Texans for him. I just think it's a fantastic fit, I think, for a team looking for a future left tackle to pair with Lane Johnson. Andre Dillard fits the bill of everything they're looking for, and that's a great fit. So he's our number 9 on our list. Number 8, Montez Sweat, defensive end out of Mississippi State. Now, he slid due to concerns about a heart condition that came up. Now, another report says that original report about the heart is false, that they're not concerned about the heart. Whatever you want to believe, Washington clearly believes he's okay. They traded back up from round 2 into round 1 to select him with the 26th overall pick. I really like Montez Sweat. We had a borderline first round top 10 grade on him. I really thought he was going to go to top 10 to top 15 as long as teams cleared the health concern. And seeing him going 26 overall to Redskins, I think it's great value, a much better selection than their first round pick, Dwayne Haskins. Number 7 on our list, offensive tackle, offensive guard out of Oklahoma, Cody Ford to the Buffalo Bills in the second round with the 38th overall pick. Look, we had Cody Ford as a late first round pick in the 20s. I believe he can start a right tackle, and what I'm thrilled to hear is the Buffalo Bills believe he can start offensive tackle as well, which is where they're going to play him. It's the kind of guy who can dominate in the run game. It's built for the NFL, built thick. I don't think the NFL riggers are going to have any issues with Cody Ford. Really thought he was a surefire first rounder. The fact that he goes in round 2 is great value for the Buffalo Bills. Number 6 on our list, sticking in the AFC East, Chase Winovich, the edge rusher from Michigan, going to the New England Patriots with the 78th overall pick in the 3rd round. Now, we had almost a identical grade between Rashawn Gary and Chase Winovich. And this is the difference. Gary goes 12th overall. Not a big fan of that. Winovich goes 78th overall. So 66 picks in between these two guys. So one team, I question the value of the selection, and the Packers. Winovich, there is no question. I think it's great value. I thought he was a borderline first-round talent. I clearly thought he was going to go early to mid-round 2. He kept falling on the draft board to my surprise, and I think the Patriots do what the Patriots do, and they reap the benefits, and he's going to be an immediate impact player for New England coming off the edge. Now to our top 5, my favorite 5 picks of the draft. Number 5, Hakeem Butler, wide receiver out of Iowa State. I said in a previous podcast, I did not see much difference between Hakeem Butler and, say, a N'Keal Harry or a Paris Campbell or a Deebo Samuel. They were all graded out similar, and those guys all went in round 2. Hakeem Butler, he goes at the very beginning, first pick overall on day 3, 103 overall in the 4th round. Hakeem Butler, to me, has all the athletic traits you could want for. I understand he had a lot of drops in college, and that's something that I believe can be cleaned up. But for a guy with his athletic profile and his potential to go in the 4th round, unbelievable value for the Arizona Cardinals. I love that selection in the 4th round of Hakeem Butler. Number 4 on our list, Jerry Tillery, defensive tackle out of Notre Dame. Just one of my favorite players in this draft overall. I had a top 10 grade on him. He slides down to 28 to the Los Angeles Chargers, and I love the fit. We've been pining for another interior pass rusher for the Chargers for a couple of seasons. Now they got one. You had Tillery in there with Melvin Ingram, Joey Bosa. I mean, he got talent in the secondary now with Derwin James. I mean, the Chargers defense looks borderline scary. I love the pick of Jerry Tillery, and the Chargers just sat there and let him fall to him. Great value there. Jerry Tillery, the Chargers, number 4 on our list. And our next 3, spoiler alert, all from the defensive backfield. Number 3 on our list, Greedy Williams, cornerback out of LSU. We had a late round 1 grade on him. We had similar grades on DeAndre Baker, Byron Murphy, and Greedy Williams. They were the top tier of the cornerback position. For our money, DeAndre Baker goes in the first round to the Oakland Raiders. Then Byron Murphy goes with the first pick in round 2. And then Greedy Williams has to wait several more picks, goes in the middle of the second round to the Cleveland Browns. I love the pairing of Greedy Williams with Denzel Ward, potentially giving the Browns a shutdown duo at both cornerback positions. Is he going to be, a force in the run game and tackling? No, he's not. But he has the skills and the traits and the ability to potentially be a shutdown cover corner. Those guys normally do not last for very long. He lasts to the middle portion of round 2. Great value, great pick for the emerging Cleveland Browns. Number 2 on our list, also to the Los Angeles Chargers, Nasir Adderley, safety out of Delaware. He was our safety 1, had a round 1 grade on him, loved him. He went 60th overall at the end of the second round. Could not believe the fact that he kept sliding in this draft. Some people question his long speed. Listen, I was at his pro day. Don't take that 4.6 for granted. He pulled up late in that, hurt his groin or hamstring, I believe is what it was. The guy plays faster. He covers more ground than any safety in this entire draft. Again, pairing him with Derwin James in the back half of that secondary with their pass rush, man, I love what the Chargers are doing. I think they are going places. I am a big believer in the Los Angeles Chargers this year, as long as they can stay healthy. And that's been part of the issue for Nasir Adderley. I'm sure that's what caused his draft stock to slide a little bit. But getting up talent like Adderley this late in round 2, I mean, the Chargers have 2 of our top 4 picks on this list. Really love those picks. I think the Chargers are going to be a team force to reckon with. And number 1 on our list, another safety, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, safety out of Florida. I really loved his versatility. Really liked him as a prospect. I'm not the only one. I know a lot of people in the scouting community who are big fans of CGJ, as I call him. He can line up deep, can line up in the slot, can play corner, can play safety. I have no unearthly idea how he lasted to the beginning of the 4th round. I was scratching my head. I was pining for a team to take him. And in round 1, definitely round 2. When round 3 got here, I was like, man, somebody's going to get a steal. He goes to the beginning of round 4. Unbelievable. Great value. And let's say the Saints took advantage. They traded up for him. They saw the value. And I say, I'm sure the Saints look at him and say, Chauncey Gardner-Johnson is everything we wanted Kenny Vaccaro to be. I think it adds an element to their secondary they had not had. So Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to the New Orleans Saints is my favorite pick of the entire 2019 NFL Draft. And just like that, we are closing the book on the 2019 NFL Draft. Hopefully you've enjoyed our draft coverage, from the positional rankings to the big board to the mock drafts to the insight. And then now our draft reviews are in the book. Gave you our top 10, our bottom 10, and we reviewed each and every team and each and every class. Hopefully you've enjoyed the draft as much as we have. Don't go anywhere. We're going to have more material. We're just going to change the spectrum a little bit. We're going to focus on the actual NFL. We're going to focus on fantasy football. Going to take a look toward the 2020 NFL draft class. So we got a lot more things coming at you. So as they used to say, don't turn that dial. Keep us on that podcast. We are the next big thing in sports podcast. You can find us anywhere that has podcast-related material. Apple, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, anywhere that has them, you can check us out. When you do, as I always say, give us a 5-star review and check us out online, thenextbigthinginsports.com. We'll have all that sports-related material that you guys are looking for, and we'll keep putting it out there as long as you guys keep gobbling it up. If you like it, you're going to get it. You can get the material. So thank you, as always, for tuning in and checking out the podcast, and we will check you out next time on the Next Big Thing in Sports Podcast.